The hierarchy of Hell and Doom has always been a mysterious and obscure aspect of the franchise. Of course, it was always assumed that the devil was somewhere in the picture before his reveal in the Ancient Gods, but others in Hell's royalty have always been hinted at in the background. The games have always alluded to the idea that other dark entities and demon lords do exist, other than Devoth, the Dark Lord. But who exactly are they? Well, the Dark Realm is expansive, with stories and mysteries so deep that the hierarchy of power in Hell has always been largely unknown. However, after continuous build-up spanning across several installments, the Dark Ages finally progressed this idea towards an interesting revelation. These high-ruling demons were finally revealed, in the Dark Ages, to be the High Council of Hell. The Dark Ages story concluded with the Doomslayer returning to Hell to focus on his next target, setting up for his next conquest against Hell. The Marine appears to be without doubt of what his next mission is, but who, or what exactly, is he dialed in on? With the heavy foreshadowing in the Dark Ages, months of heavy speculation, and even direct teases from id Software, it is all but confirmed that the next antagonists of the Doom series are the Order of the Six. With the continuation of the story just around the corner, and if the Slayer will in fact be hunting down these elder demon gods, it's important to prepare for what exactly we'll be dealing with in the DLC. So, in this video, we are going to explore the history of the High Council of Hell, also known as the Order of the Six. We'll cover everything we know regarding Hell's royalty, including their purpose, their identities, and their involvement in the overarching story. We'll also get into the Council's history with the Doomslayer and his motive, as well as what we can expect to see unravel in their debut. Remember, although this is an analysis of the Council, it is largely speculative. But anyways, let's dive deep into the history of Hell's High Council. The devil may be the big bad who is responsible for all the horrors that came to be, but he's been nothing more than a spirit for countless eons. The Dark Lord was the original leader of Hell's armies, the one responsible for the formation of the Dark Realm. After the betrayal of the Father, Devoth relentlessly conquered countless other realms, absorbing them into his own. Although his efforts were substantial, he was unsuccessful in his retribution against the Father, as he was overpowered and reduced to a mere essence. With his spirit and physical form divided, his influence on his world became limited to whispers. Who, or what, would lead Hell further on its dark path? Who would command the demonic horde? Well, other than the Dark Lord, there has always been another ruling elite across the Dark Realm. The High Council came to control Hell's armies. The Council is comprised of a group known as the Order of the Six. The Archdemons of this order are descendants of the six unholy bloodlines born from the primordial Black Heart, which possibly suggests that these bloodlines were spawned from the power of Devoth himself. Demons of this rank are immortal, as they are the six eldest of the demon gods. Following the loss of the Dark Lord, the Order has been in control of the innermost circles for an incalculable amount of time. At the top of the hierarchy of Hell, as the direct subordinates of Devoth, they control the Horde, including demon lords, priests, and other demonic leaders, as they answer only to their one master. Countless worlds have been consumed at the command of the Six. Long before the Slayer awakened on Mars, before the Sentinel Wars on Argent Denor, and far before the events of the original Doom, the legions of Hell have remained under the control of the six eternal archdemons. So, let's back up a bit. Before we go further in depth about the Council and its structure, let's address something that many players are asking. How is there so much information regarding Hell's High Council if they've never really even appeared in-game? What do we truly know? Well, honestly, there really isn't much clear information about them. So where did these ideas come from? Let's talk about the history of their development. There have been brief references to demonic leaders since Doom 2016, which are assumed to be related, but the demon gods themselves were only ever vaguely mentioned by name, hardly even a few times. They were name-dropped with no explanation in the Codex of Eternal, and briefly disclosed again in the narrative of the Dark Ages. As a matter of fact, the only concrete information about the Council can be found in the Art of Doom Eternal, a concept art and lore book with questionable validity. In that book, as the first true mention of them, we learn that Hell has always been ruled by the six elder demon gods, the direct subordinates to Devoth. There is also another page, further in the book, that mentions that archdemons do exist, and they serve as lieutenants to the Dark Lord, commanding the innermost circles of Hell. The specific details regarding the two are separate, but fan speculation always pins the archdemons and the Order of the Six as one and the same. They are often analyzed in the same context, but they do have separate descriptions. So, are these two really even the same? Although it was never explicitly stated that the Archdemons and the Order of the Six are the same entities, their backgrounds fit right together. So, for speculation purposes, we're going to look at the Order of the Six with the insight of the Archdemons to help unravel their background. We can also take into account the brief mentions of the Archdemons from all the way back in Eternal's Codex. Additionally, the fact that the Archdemons and the Order are the same entities would confirm that we have in fact been softly introduced to them already, more or less. Let me explain. Doom is known for its compelling environmental storytelling, and the Dark Ages is no different. Throughout the campaign, across the various hellscapes, there are multiple different demonic entity statues that can be found. Although many structures and props seem to be incidental to the hellish environmental designs, there are a few of these figures that stand out drastically. These statues' designs are much more distinct in comparison to others, and seem to be more uniquely placed. It was clear that they were a representation of demon lords to some degree, but it was entirely a mystery. This discovery, alongside rapid speculation across the fanbase, emerged simultaneously with a tease in a post-launch commentary from game director Hugo Martin, less than 2 weeks after the game's release. With that, the fanbase immediately jumped to the conclusion that these leaders could very well be the High Council of Hell. On top of that, the two most notable statues found in-game were ripped straight from the Archdemon depictions all the way back from Eternal's art book, where the first description of the Order of the Six was found.
Interesting.
The Order of the Six has been confirmed to be synonymous to the High Council, just an alternate title. So, that being said, it seems like we have already been given a glimpse at the Elder Demon Gods. But what else can we take from this clear connection to the Council? The structure of the High Council of Hell is still largely unknown, but I believe that if these Archdemon statues are reliable, then there's much that we can apply them to in learning about the Council's functionality. So let's explore the structure of the Order and learn more about their individual roles. Although the Order of the Six rule all of Hell, they are unlikely kings, at least not in the traditional sense. The Eternal Archdemons largely act as lieutenants, overseeing the innermost circles of Hell. The Elder Demon Gods each play a distinct role. They have their own specific areas of authority, their own purpose. They largely rule hands-off. Lesser Demon Lords were given limited jurisdiction, and the Hell Priests, keepers of the Council's forbidden knowledge, acted as their living conduits. Although Devoth was defeated long ago, a lesser Dark Lord would rise to power throughout the ages. The Council was responsible for appointing them, which is likely what Azrek was attempting during his ascension through the ranks. Current Dark Lord or not, the Order holds overall jurisdiction of the Horde. But finally, what are the actual identities of the Archdemons themselves? And what are their individual roles? This is where it becomes more about speculation. The only Archdemon that we really know of, more or less, comes from this statue. This is of the two Archdemons that appeared to be ripped straight out of the original art book depiction. Erebus, the keeper of the Spire cities of Dis. Erebus rose from the ruins of Babel, being the most loathed of the Archdemons, as he was the slave master of the damned. Erebus oversaw the sentencing of the souls that were condemned to perpetual torment. Visually, his orc-like design gives the impression that he's one of the brutes of the group. The device on his chest holds some similarities to the one found on Devoth's, which could further prove that these are the Council members. Does this also mean that the Council shares some tie to Devoth's power? The fact that Erebus is the only one with this device also seems to indicate that he holds some greater importance to the group. Perhaps he's the leader? Anyways, his design is the most unique, but something about this seems familiar. Not just that, but also his background. Keeper of the Spire cities? Among the Spire cities, Necroval was at the center of it all during the Argenta Civil War, before the Slayer shut down the Tower of Babel in Eternal. It is unknown if Erebus played this role before or after the construction of Necroval. It seems that he was going to play a minor role in Doom Eternal, but was instead replaced with Calibus, the Sightless Judge. This was likely rewritten by id to not rush the idea of the Archdemons into an incidental combat encounter. It's probably best to save them for another time, not in a campaign that's already convoluted. Incidentally, he may even be related to the mission Mount Erebus in Classic Doom. Moving on, there is one other Archdemon statue in the Dark Ages that was directly taken from Eternal's art book, and he is the most interesting. He's probably the most responsible for the predictions that the Council will make their appearance in the Dark Ages DLC, because his design is near identical to the art books. This abomination appears to be the sorcerer of the Order. His arms, his magic staff, and cloak are all common features of a wizard. And honestly, he is a wizard. There are detailed concepts of a cut enemy dubbed Wizard, who is nearly a one-to-one copy of the statue found in-game. It's interesting because this concept was clearly based on the Archdemons found in Eternal's art book, but it was repurposed as an enemy? Well, clearly it still made the final cut of Dark Ages to some extent. His absence from the demon roster could have been intentional, maybe for the purpose of using him for the High Council. That being said, the books and the sorcery aspect may allude to the idea that he is the keeper of the ancient dark arts. The fact that he was depicted as an archdemon before really pushes the idea that this is what these statues represent. Another interesting aspect of this wizard is his inclusion in a very early concept draft from Eternal. An early concept for the Sentinel Prime Colosseum depicts several high-rolling demonic figures. An early idea for the Order of the Six? But that's some early draft, so it shouldn't be taken literally. The next of these statues has a compelling secret. This demon has a gargoyle-like appearance, but interestingly enough, it's commonly shown in pairs. There is also a variation of this entity, one with a slightly different horn design. This leads me to infer that they aren't just one, but two of the members of the Order. If this is the case, these two gods might work in unison, or share a mind to some capacity. However, this is actually not the first time this creature has appeared in a Doom game. In Eternal, this abomination can be found on multiple occasions, also depicted in pairs. He appears in Necroval, which makes sense as the Council was in charge when the pact was struck with the Makers. They also appear briefly in Argent d'Nor, which is odd. Why would this appear in the Sentinel's homeworld? Was this a result of the demonic takeover? Anyways, I like the idea of these being the twins. Not much can be said about the last two members. One appears as another brute, a winged beast with many similarities to classic Doom's Baron of Hell design. There's not much to say about the other one. Altogether, the 6 unique demon statues found in-game give us a possible look at the High Council of Hell, the primordial governing force behind Hell's hierarchy. However, while the dominion of the Elder Gods appears supreme, their rule may actually be limited to some extent. Although the manipulations of Devoth were reduced to whispers, his influence was still absolute. The Elder Gods, without question, carry out the will of their infernal master. It is likely that they even communicate with the Dark Lord to some extent, as shown in his pact with the Conmaker during the Six's rule. If that's the case, is it possible that the Council has some connection to Devoth, whether through physically, with sharing his power, or spiritually? Regardless, the Dark Lord, without a doubt, still maintains control somewhere behind the scenes. But with that, overall, we have a solid understanding of the High Council of Hell, the Order of the Six. However, this isn't guaranteed at all. These statues might not even hold any significance. The demon gods may be drastically different from our expectations, as we truly don't have much information. But this is what we can currently interpret them as we know the demon gods are being built up for their grand debut soon. So with this idea of the High Council, what can we expect to see from the High Council story-wise? Why now in the timeline? What is the Slayer's motive? The Order of the Six have ruled the Dark Realm long before the Slayer even began his journey, meaning they were the ones directly responsible for Hell's initial invasion on Earth during the events of the classic Doom titles, which resulted in the loss of his wife, his family, and even Daisy, his pet rabbit. So, the Slayer holds the Order responsible for everything he'd lost, which further extends to the safety of his new people. It is during the Sentinel Wars where the Slayer will finally seek out the Council to challenge the demon gods. The Slayer's testaments from 2016 stated that, with boiling blood, the Doomslayer scoured the Umbral Plains and sought vengeance against the Dark Lords who had wronged him. Could these so-called Dark Lords and the High Council be one and the same? The Dark Lords who had wronged the Marine, who have taken everything from him? The Dark Ages ends with the Slayer returning to Hell rather early to enact his revenge, with the Slayer free from the shackles of the Makers for the first time since he was blessed. It is likely that his next step is to take the fight to the next line of power, above Azric. The Marine's conflict and knowledge of the Dark Lord are largely unknown to him, so, to his understanding, after Azric's defeat, the destruction of the Council is his next step. The Order of the Six was sought out by the Night Sentinels during the Unholy Wars, so it is likely that the Slayer was familiar with them. Years of war took place between the Argenta and the Legions of Hell, under the control of the Archdemons. It is around this time that the Elder Council, along with the perpetual spirit of the Dark Lord, struck a deal with the heavens, and the war only took a turn for the worse. Hell was just getting started. The Sentinels have no achievable way of taking the war to them, no successful method to take the war that deep. The only way for the Slayer to protect his people, the only people he has left, is to draw the war away from them in an attack at the heart of the demons, the Source. The Marine left to continue his crusade alone in pursuit of the Council, the ones responsible for his eternal rage. He will travel across the inner circles of the Dark Realm, shattering their invulnerability, and, inevitably, he will find them. However, will the Marine's conquest have a triumphant ending? Sure, the Council seems absent during and after Doom 2016, but the Elder Demon Gods rule all of Hell, so, for all of them to be slain so early on seems unlikely. Thousands, up to millions of years pass before the Dark Lord is resurrected, so, aside from the outside interference of the Conmaker, how would Hell thrive without its leaders? An antagonist like this seems too large for a single, larger-scale DLC. We can't expect 6 individual boss fights in a single expansion. Shouldn't they be saved for another game? Well, perhaps they will be, but maybe the DLC will have a primary focus on only one of the Elders of the High Council, possibly paired with some plotline surrounding the Cosmic Realm. Regardless, this could very well make for one of the most interesting antagonists that the franchise has ever seen. With the DLC for Doom the Dark Ages just around the corner, it is important to understand and prepare for what the Doomslayer will soon be up against. The Order of the Six is the High Council of Hell. With their inclusion being heavily teased by Hugo, as well as the Dark Ages itself, it is likely that we will finally see the Council in action in just a few short months. Although much of their background is based on fact, this is largely speculation. Honestly, it's very possible that the Order will be very different from what we expect. These 6 entities may be the Elder Council, but other than the broad ideas, very little is truly known, so try to keep an open mind. There is no telling what will happen in the DLC. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, and what you hope to see from the DLC. Until next time.